Thinking about moving to Texas? First of all, congratulations on having some common sense. Texas is budget friendly compared to other popular states. Today we look at the cheapest cities in Texas for 2024. So how do we rank these? How do we figure out what the cheapest cities are? We look at stuff like the average home value, rent prices, property taxes, and general cost of living. This video will focus on cities over 10,000 residents, and we're going to rank them by their cost of living index, which, in case you're wondering, is different from like the average real estate prices. So you'll see some of these that are cheaper than other places, but they have more expensive homes. It's just math. Now, like I said, I'm going to include rent prices in this one. I don't normally like to include rent numbers because they change so often. You could be watching this video 3 weeks from now and it's a totally different story. If you want the latest rental prices, check out rent.com. They seem to be the most accurate in my opinion. All right, we are looking at the cheapest cities to call home in Texas. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, El Paso, Texas. El Paso is actually a pretty big deal. It's the 22nd largest city in the United States, which is no small feat. Here's the kicker. It's super affordable, especially compared to other Texas cities. It's not like those big cities where you got to pay an arm and 2 gold fillings just to put a roof over your head. Housing costs, they're surprisingly low. We're talking about both renting and buying a place. Our research shows that whether you want to rent an apartment or buy a house, El Paso is one of the cheapest places you could pick in the whole state. How cool is that? And they have really good Mexican food. Only one other city in Texas I've found has better Mexican food, and that's also on this list. I'll tell you later. The median home value in El Paso is $213,000. Rent on a 1-bedroom goes for about $901 a month, and their cost of living index is 84.4. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's just a way they measure how much goods and services are. I look at it this way. If the average is 100, so you buy $100 of stuff in the average place, if they've got a cost of living index of 84.4, that means that same amount of stuff in El Paso would cost you $84.40. There's a lot more that goes into that, but that just gets the idea across. Number 9, Corpus Christi, Texas. Are things going well with your latest Tinder hookup? Thinking this Tinder thing might have worked out for you after all? Thinking about starting a family? Try Corpus Christi, Texas. It's a pretty sweet place to live. Homes are surprisingly affordable. They're normally around 42% lower than the national average. That's a pretty good bargain, right? Now, you'll also save on a bunch of other things like getting around. Transportation costs about 20.3% lower than the national average, and utilities are about 11% lower. Corpus Christi's in the southern part of Texas on the Gulf of Mexico, right next door to Galveston. Just kidding, it's like 4 hours away. How many of you Texans were about to pitch a fit? You don't know where Corpus Christi is or Galveston. The median home value in Corpus Christi is $216,000 and some change. The average 1-bedroom apartment will go for about $1,028 a month, and the cost of living index is 83.7. Number 8, Amarillo, Texas. If you're looking to stretch your dollar a little bit further, Amarillo in the Texas Panhandle is the place to be. It's not just the biggest city around there, because there's like nothing out there, but it's one of the most affordable spots in Texas. The cost of living is low, rent's low, housing's low, the people are slow, and that's just the way they like it. For a long time, Amarillo was the place to be. I mean, you had all these small little towns out here in the Texas Panhandle, and Amarillo's the biggest city. So whatever you needed, you headed down to Amarillo. Well, you know, not everyone goes to the store anymore, so Amarillo seems a little vacant. But that's good for you if you're looking to retire or if you're looking to a place that's affordable. Let's say you could work from home, order everything on Amazon, you're good to go in Amarillo. The median home value in Amarillo, Texas is $193,000. The average 1-bedroom apartment goes for about $957 a month. Their cost of living index is 82.5. Number 7, Killeen, Texas. Killeen, Texas used to be right outside the main gate of Fort Hood, Texas. Now it's some other fort. It's another one of those places that got renamed. So I've been to Killeen a few times. Few too many times, actually. One thing I've learned to do is say it really fast, like clean, and it really irritates the locals. Like Mr. Clean. Killeen is actually one of the most affordable places to live in Texas, especially if you're looking to rent a one-bedroom apartment. It's so cheap here that the living wage is only $17. Most places, the living wage, like the average, is around $21 right now. If you're someplace like California or New York, it's somewhere like $34 is what you need to make an hour to be living what they consider a living wage. $17 in Killeen. If you're looking for it on a map, Killeen is in between Waco and Austin, Texas. The average home value here is $224,000. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is only $520. The cost of living index is 80.5, getting cheaper. Number 6, Bowmont, Texas. Bowmont is part of Texas that kind of reminds you of Louisiana. It's not too far from the Louisiana border, and it's muggy, it's swampy. I could do without it, but it is affordable. Whenever I see Bowmont, I think of that Ron White joke where he talks about how he took a plane from Houston to Bowmont because his manager doesn't own a globe. They're really close together. He said the plane was so bad it traveled half the speed of smell. Besides the heat and humidity, I think Beaumont's an okay place to live. It's got some crime, just like every place. It's not terrible. One thing I really like about Bowmont, this is kind of a lot of places in Texas, but when you buy a house, it comes on a little property, meaning not like California where you have to turn sideways to move down your property between your neighbor's house and yours. Like literally, you have to turn your body sideways like you're trying to squeak in between two cars at a crowded Costco parking lot. You could probably drive two cars side by side between most houses in Texas. Now, if you are thinking about moving and saving some cash, Bowmont and Jefferson County should definitely be on your radar. The homes here are extremely affordable. It almost doesn't make sense to rent because rent isn't high, but it's not the lowest. The median home value in Bowmont, Texas is $144,000. The average rent for a one bedroom is about $920, and the cost of living index is 79.1. Number 5, Abilene, Texas. Abilene's usually that place you stop when you're getting lunch on your way to Dallas from like Midland or Odessa. I went through there probably in the late 80s one time, and it was an okay city, but then I went again in like 2012, I think, and the city looked so much better. I don't know what had changed. It just really looked like they'd been maintaining it better. I don't remember the streets being any better or anything like that. It just looked like it was cleaner. It was nice. Abilene is a city with a lot of Western history. It's also got a lot of affordable property. The average home value here is $189,000. The average rent isn't the cheapest on this list, but it's pretty close. The average one bedroom goes for about $760 a month here. Their cost of living index, 79.1. Number 4, Waco, Texas. It's too bad what everyone knows about Waco, Texas is that Branch Davidian complex fiasco. It's actually a nice community. It's where you'll find Baylor University and Lake Waco. It's a good-sized lake right outside of town. The cost of living is really low. Their utilities are low, things like that. But when it comes to housing, it's a little expensive for this list, but it's still well below the national average. The average home value here is $214,000. The average rent, about $1,100 for one bedroom. Yeah, it's a little steep. But still, the cost of living index is 77. Number 3, Brownsville, Texas. Brownsville's a place I think is going to be picking up some steam. I mean, it already has a little bit. If you look at their migration patterns, they've got a lot more people moving in there, and wages have gone up. And a lot of that has to do with all the Elon Musk, SpaceX stuff going on down there. Every month you hear something new, like he's pulling out or something like that, but it's doing pretty good right now. At least I should say better than it has in past decades. It is located on the Gulf Coast of South Texas, not too far from South Padre Island, where everyone goes for spring break and a good time. Here's a piece of trivia. 11 states have decent-sized towns or small cities that are named Brownsville. Handful of other ones have, little tiny towns named Brownsville. But Brownsville hasn't had the best reputation, sort of like Waco. I mean, a lot of people think Brownsville isn't that great because it's so close to the Mexico border. But really, it's not that terrible. Their crime rate, total overall crime rate, is 2% lower than the national average. Their property crime rate is 6% lower. I know know a lot of you were probably thinking it's like 100 times higher than the national average. Nothing near that. The only thing that's a little high is their violent crime rate, and that's only 17% above the national average, and that is nothing. If you want to move to Brownsville, buy a house, the average home value is $176,000. Their average rent for a one-bedroom is $775 a month. Their cost of living index, 76.3. Number 2, Laredo, Texas. This is the place that I think has the best Mexican food. Every time I've gone to Laredo, I've eaten at a couple different restaurants. Few of them aren't there anymore, but there's been a handful that I've gone to over the years. I love the food in this city. My stomach doesn't thank me for it, but it's so good. Laredo sits on the northern bank of the Rio Grande River, and if you're looking to save some money and buy a house at the same time, this is a great place to do it. I talked to a guy on a train one time, and he was from Texas. He was talking about the major cities there, and he said the thing about Laredo is everyone always forgets Laredo's there. He said people always say, oh yeah, and Laredo, when they're naming all the cities. It's not really a major city, but it's a known city. Laredo is also where you will find Texas A&M International University. Now, everyone's got their own favorite Mexican food place, and they always scoff at you whenever you name your favorite, so I try and stay away from that. But there's one called Miss Taco's Restaurante. Eat there. That one's good. El Gusto's pretty good. And Danny's Restaurant has great Mexican food. The average home value in Laredo, Texas is $206,000. The average one-bedroom rent goes for $875, and their cost living index is 76.1. All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to any one of these cities or anywhere in the country, there's a link for a website called Home and Money. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the United States. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Wichita Falls. If you don't know where Wichita Falls is, it is northwest of Dallas, Texas, right there on the Red River and the border with Oklahoma. And yes, it is in the heart of Tornado Alley. I wouldn't say Wichita Falls is the most exciting place to live. It actually seems a little boring to me. Now, I've never lived there, so that's just my opinion based on what I've seen of the place, so take that with a grain of salt. This is a military town. It's got Shepherd Air Force Base just on the north side of town. A lot of people that live in Wichita Falls that retire here are from that base or from the military. Just about any place in Texas is a good place to retire if you're ex-military. They've got a lot of bases and a lot of access to the healthcare and the PX and all that stuff. So always keep that in mind when you're looking for a place to retire after the military. I probably don't have to tell anyone in the military that. If you've been in long enough, you already know that. Wichita Falls definitely is a very affordable place to live. The average home value here is $161,000. The average rent for a one bedroom is $801. And the cost of living index, 75.5. That is pretty cheap. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, and be nice to each other.